Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. JACALYN. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com you need and tell Dr. JACALYN at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, and our show today is the Business Talk Show. And in case you haven't heard, he's back. Mr. al.cini is in the house. Let's welcome him to the program. Hello.
Dr. JACALYN KERBECK, it's such a pleasure to be seen once again. And thank you for welcoming me back, and thank you for patiently waiting while I was kind of sidetracked there for a little bit.
Well, we were all praying for you and just thrilled that you are back and healthy and with us on this program. And I know how busy you are. You've got other shows that you're doing. You're running your businesses, and everybody wants a little piece of Mr. al.cini.
Well, then, it's marked down, so now's the time to buy.
And by the way, I also want to add something that you told me you were not good at, and I have to say I saw that you are a very good singer.
Oh, that was just that hardly counts. I mean, the truth is, I do know that I can't carry a tune. I know that well enough. Really not. I'm not a good singer. Thank you for your kind words in that on that subject, but you're never, ever going to get me to sing again. I did on one of your elevated listener programs when Madeline kind of walked us through the experience of singing. And what I liked about it is that the whole idea of singing out actually changes the way you think and makes you more mindful of a whole bunch of things. So singing is a good thing, but not necessarily a marketable thing in my case.
Well, I just want to share with our audience, whether you're listening or you're watching, that if you are on Instagram and you're following Mr. al.cini, you will be able to see him live singing 99 bottles of beer on the wall.
with two of my granddaughters. Yes, that's me. 99.
Can you share?
I got to 96.
I think you made it to 97 or 6. What is your Instagram handle if people want to follow you?
Alfred F. Cini, I think.
There it is.
So I think I'm the only one of those on Instagram. So,
well, I was happy to see you had moved over there because you weren't on Instagram.
Well, I'm trying to up my social media game, but there's a lot more to it than I ever imagined, and I'm getting to. I mean, every one of them is a little different from all the others. So just because you know how to, one of the things I'm learning, and everybody else in the world knows this already, just because you know how to post on Facebook doesn't mean you know how to do that on Instagram or on Twitter for that matter. And so what I'm learning more than anything is that each one of the social media platforms has its own quirks and kind of personality traits. But Instagram, I think of all of them, is probably the alternative. Facebook and Instagram, I think I prefer Instagram.
Well, I have to say, I spend hours on social media. We've got 26 shows a week, and I've got to post them all out and then tag everyone. And StreamYard does not integrate with Instagram because, from my understanding, Instagram won't let any other entities stream to their platform. So then I have to do everything separate on Instagram. So it is very interesting. But for business owners who are out there, and this is not the topic of our show, just to be honest, our guest has not arrived yet, Mr. Hiett Ives, who was going to talk about trade shows. But for business owners, many people don't want to get on social media. And we've talked about this before, that you need to get on social media because that's where people are until something happens to change that. People are on social media, and it's amazing to me how many people are able to make a living 6-7 figures from being on social media.
Well, they are. And what's always amazed me, Dr. JACALYN, is that whole idea of what does it take to become viral and to go viral with a video. And, you'd figure if you create some content that you consider to be wise with a lot of really valuable tips, and you put it out there, you'd have a pretty good chance of it going viral. But you're competing with content like, I just picked my nose and you won't believe what I found. And so we're on the one hand, you're offering something that could change somebody's life and you get 20 views. On the other hand, somebody's offering something that's just totally goofy and they're getting, I don't know, 25 million, 30 million views of their content. So I'm not sure how you make the connection between what you do for a living and, I mean, unless social media is what you do for a living, which is really kind of has to be. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still not sure. The jury for me anyway is kind of still out there. But I do know that you can't not be on social media in the 21st century. No matter how many viewers, no matter how many connections you have, you got to be out there. Because just like they're looking for your website, just to confirm you're real, the next step after a conversation is that people go looking to see where you are on Facebook and LinkedIn. They just want to see who you are. And these are ways you have of telling the world who you are. It's part of your presence. And as a business person, you can't afford not to show up.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Al, because especially for me, when I'm creating the broadcast for each show, the promo, I should say, I look at what somebody sent me and then I go to look for them on all the platforms because I want to see what kind of content are they putting out there. I'm not so much concerned with how many followers they have. I look, if I see someone with a huge number of followers, are they actually monetizing that? I don't know. But I decided to put myself on TikTok, even though we don't stream there because I don't believe this platform streams there. But anyway, I now have 3 followers. And my name over there is the listening mentor, and I put things about listening. And when I started watching some of the other shows, people who have content creators over there on TikTok, I see people half naked. I see people dancing on kitchen counters, people dancing with a broom. I don't know. I see a lot of things that doesn't seem to be of
your
value.
listening mentor content has to be people driving up a tree because they didn't listen to the person in the car who was saying, look up to that tree. So you've got to.
That's actually a good idea.
That's going to be the kind of TikTok that'll work for you. So if you can find a clip somewhere of somebody hitting a tree and then make a clip of you saying, watch out for that tree in a car, clip it to make the 2 of them. That's a TikTok. There you go.
There it is. Thank you, Al.
So,
that's how it's done. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with me. But to your other point, all of it takes time. It's an incredible amount of time that it takes to create the content. And then the content's out there. And how do you keep it relevant? One thing I think is really interesting is on YouTube, I've got YouTube up on this other computer, which is the one we stream out for the radio shows. But I watch the show. And right after this, there's usually another show that pops up just arbitrarily. And it's a guy who's got millions and millions of followers. And he's been around for 15, 16, I don't know, a long time. And I look to myself and say, how can I do what this person is doing? So I watch a lot of his videos and he interviews big names like Tony Robbins and whatnot. But he also interacts with everyone by suggesting that people post something after the fact even, and then he goes back and comments on their comments, which is a whole time-consuming thing in and of itself.
Sure. I mean, it becomes a job. It becomes, although, I mean, I was kind of out of it for the various reasons. I was kind of out of pretty much out of just about everything. But there is a kind of a zone that you slip into where you post on a regular basis, comment on a regular basis, interact with people regularly. And when you slip into that zone, you could probably get by a typical business person. You're an exception because of the nature of the work you do, I think. You probably, with maybe an hour a day or even an hour every other day, you can become pretty prolific on social media just by organizing your time intelligently. And having a kind of a set of habit patterns that you follow consistently to use social media the way you need to use it. So that the big concern, I think the big problem people have with social media is that they're not consistent with it. And being consistent with social media is kind of the secret. Be there all the time. If you post every day for a week or two and then stop, people will notice that you went away more than they notice that you were there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I also wanted to add, over on Instagram, just like Facebook, I'm sure people are annoyingly notified of when I'm going live. I can hear my mom's phone ding every hour that it's going, that I'm about to go live. So I have the same thing with other people on Instagram, for example. And I don't know who these people are, but I can tell you exactly when they're going live. I can tell you, like,
You
there's a
just know
woman
they
on
have a
Facebook.
routine, and that's no kidding. I mean,
It's,
after a
yeah,
while,
5 o'clock. There it is. And I say to
well,
myself, okay, Lindsay's there again at 5 o'clock. So I am aware of who these people are, even though I'm not following or watching their content, I should say. And I respect the fact. And I think to myself, okay, I've got to get over and start watching their content.
well, yeah. Listen, I'm new to Instagram. I'm relatively speaking, as you know, and I maybe have 6 followers over there. Not very many. It's growing a little bit, but not really, not many at all. But one of the things I found is that for a guy who spends as much as I do on paid television, like Netflix and Prime and all that, I mean, for all, still, I'll find myself on my phone scrolling through Instagram videos because they're funny. I mean, a lot of them are actually better than this stuff, and they're only a minute or two each. But I am a little sick of, there once was a ship that went to sea, and the name of that ship was the Billy O.T. Have you heard that song? I've heard it 5 million times now. I mean, all the Instagram videos have the same 3 or 4 songs behind them.
Well, I have to be honest that normally when I'm looking at Instagram or Facebook, I don't have the music, the sound on.
Well, if you turn it on, you're going to hear that song a whole lot. I mean, there are 3 or 4 songs that they all seem to use in the background, and I don't know, man. I'm too old for this.
Well, I think this is a nice segue to talk about what we were discussing backstage. And during the pandemic, there were many business owners who were just getting started. People left corporate and said, "Hey, I'm out of here. I'm starting a new business." And then unfortunately, there were many business owners who had to close up shop. And
Yeah.
for those who had to close up shop, I imagine there's a certain grieving process that maybe starts with shock, denial, anger. I don't know, but there's stages of grief. And it
I
also
can't remember
applies
all the
to
stages, but
businesses.
yeah, I know. My favorite word, because I hear it all the time, is my favorite phrase is I was devastated. This happened to me and I was devastated. This went wrong and I was devastated. And I think an awful lot of people confess out loud to having been devastated by something, one thing or another. And it made me wonder a little bit. I mean, the word devastated always used to refer in my mind to cities like New Orleans that were wiped out by Katrina, cities like New York that were wiped out by 911 or by the hurricane. I can't even remember the name of it. And I was in New York at the time. And they name all the hurricanes now. Devastation always to me was, we have some serious rebuilding to do because there is tremendous material damage that needs to be repaired. I never really considered emotional devastation much. And I always used to wonder, why is it that so many people get stuck on the first 6 stages of getting of grief? If there are 7 stages of dealing with grief, where the last is acceptance, maybe it's a skill that we could learn where we take the first 6 and compress them down to an hour or 2 instead of having them run for 2 or 3 years. I think an awful lot of people get stuck as a victim in something. And then after a while, that becomes such a self-reinforcing part of the conversation they have with themselves and with others that they define themselves by that devastation. I was devastated. I am devastated. And, I think climbing out of that is the essence of resilience. And I don't think we put enough focus on that these days. You need to climb out of it. You just have to. I mean, not right away. Certainly, you got to take some time. I understand that, but not. I know that you're not doing as much coaching as you used to because you're pretty busy with USA Global TV. But you were a coach, and a lot of times, coaching is about helping people get unstuck from their feelings of devastation. I feel devastated. What's your take on that? How do you help somebody pick it up and move on?
All great Great question. So I am still a certified coach, and yes, I don't coach as much because I'm focused on this platform and also teaching people to listen, writing books, writing a
Mhm.
song. But what I would share with that is, in my experience, when people are really grieving and they're feeling overwhelmed and devastated, many times it's because there was something that was not closed before the person died. There was something in the air, a disagreement, a misunderstanding, not expressing feelings, and they can never be undone because the person's no longer there. So then the person has to figure out, how can I deal with these feelings that I have so that I can move on with my life. There's also people who live and breathe in the misery, and that becomes who they are. Oh, I'm miserable, I'm devastated. That's sort of almost a role that they take on.
Mm.
And in any of these cases, it's first of all acknowledging the fact that something's changed. In addition to the person leaving or you losing your business, your life has changed, and
Mm.
you can choose to go down the tubes with whatever it was, or you can choose to take a different choice, make a different choice. But it takes work, and it's not easy, and part of doing that work is looking at, what was it that wasn't complete? Where was it that we didn't have closure? So I'll give you an example without naming any people. Someone I used to know very well was at odds with a sibling, and the sibling died in a freak accident, and the
Mm.
person never got to speak to their sibling again. And they had been at odds with that person. They hadn't been talking to that person. And that person then became suicidal because they felt such an overwhelming sense of guilt and shame for their actions, and they would never get redemption or forgiveness from the other person. So they had to learn how to forgive themselves.
That's interesting, but and you know, obviously you were a coach in this situation, this particular situation. So you're recounting an experience you had as a coach, or somebody you knew.
Somebody that I knew very well, and the person never came back from it.
Never came back from that.
Never
And
came back from
you know, and listen, I understand that there are some unresolved conflicts in people's lives. I mean, eventually you have to be able to function. You've got to be able to get up in the morning. You've got to be able to get out and do the things that you enjoy doing. You've got to, I don't know. I think, you know, and I think we've become a society. I don't want to say this because it denigrates. Maybe we become a society of crybabies. Maybe we become, instead of that British stiff upper lip, pull it together. You know, that instead of that emphasis on moving on, we become a society that we cry on each other's shoulders to the point where that becomes kind of the norm. If you know what I mean. Boy, and you know, I'm going to sound cruel and heartless just even by bringing that up, because I'm a sympathetic, empathetic, caring person. At least I like to think I am. I'm not really big on small talk, although you wouldn't know it based on what we're doing right here. I mean, I'm the kind of person who kind of wants people to get to the point and want to move forward. I mean, one of the reasons why the listening mentor experience was such a good experience for me is it taught me to get in touch with the empathetic need to allow other people to emote and to express, and to have the patience for that. And I feel as though I've become more patient, but I haven't become infinitely patient. And I don't know how to. Yeah, I do know how to. I do know actually how to summarize this, because in your world, Dr. JACALYN, as a certified coach, people draw a distinction between somebody who is a coach and somebody who is a consultant by saying that somebody who is a coach is somebody who will listen to you no matter how long it takes for you to say what you want to say. Whereas a consultant will always be trying to angle, manipulate, and move you in a forward direction for you, meaning try to get you out of the conversation you're in and into a next step. Does that ring true with you at all? I mean, do you see that as a distinction between a coach and a consultant?
Yes, yes, I do. And a question I have for you, just taking that a step further, Do you feel that in business, you're more likely for your business, if you need direction for your business, a strategy for your business, are you more likely to work with a consultant or a coach?
I'd probably be more likely to work with a consultant because I doubt that I would approach business from an emotional point of view. So hiring consultants, it's kind of, for me anyway, when I've done it, plenty of times now. It's this is something I need to have done. I don't have the time or the skill set to do it myself. Can you do this for me? How long is it going to take you? How much is it going to cost me? That's consulting to me. Coaching is more, I can't seem to get out of this hole that I'm finding myself in. I'm not growing as quickly as I'd like to grow. I'm relying on people that I don't believe I can depend on anymore. And I'm losing faith in some of the people that I'm on this journey with, or I'm losing faith in the mission that I'm on. That to me, that's a conversation with Dr. JACALYN. Can you help me understand why? Help me find the clarity I need to find in order to be able to hire the consultant I need to hire. Until I really have that clarity of my own sense of worth and purpose, I really can't make any of those decisions on who to hire to get me out of the rut I'm in if I can't see the rut I'm in. Does that make sense at all?
Perfectly. It makes, complete alignment with what you were saying. And I think as a business owner, I myself am always looking for direction, consulting, if you will. And I have to work diligently to keep my emotions out of it. And I'll explain what I mean by that. There are many aspects to running this platform or my other business, Dr. JACALYN, or my books that I'm doing. And if my expectations are always at a certain level, I'm certainly going to be disappointed because I'm going to have an emotional attachment with those expectations. Just like on this platform, that the team members that we have, a couple of team members will say to me, "Hey, I'm really sorry. I hope that I met your expectations. I didn't mean to disappoint you." And I'll say, "I have no expectations of you. I only have expectations of myself." So where I'm going with this whole thing is that I think there has to be some type of line drawn between the coaching and the consulting and where we put our emotions and where we take the emotions out of it to look sort of with an eagle eye over, flying over for the bigger picture.
Well, if we talk about the video business, the streaming video television business, back when I used to work at NBC, the question would always come up: who's the boss of this department, or who's in charge of this department, or who do we work for around here? As it's true in any organization, you're always looking for that authority figure. But I had somebody explain to me at NBC that the real authority figure is that thing hanging on the wall called a clock. That when you're running down to 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. or 7 or 8 p.m. at night, the goal of the television network is to deliver whatever content they promise they deliver at that time, right on time, without fail, every day, every week, every month, every year, year after year. So the boss is the clock, that thing that's hanging on the wall. And I'm thinking, when you're working with your community at USA Global TV, part of what you do with your community is to support people in the content that they prepare for you and in the way they help you present the content that you've prepared. So you work with hosts and you work with guests, and a lot of that conversation, because we've had these conversations ourselves, is on a personal level where you're trying to become comfortable with them as people and you're helping them to be comfortable with you as a person. But I can tell everybody who's watching USA Global TV now that the Dr. JACALYN who shows up to make you comfortable and feel supported and loved and respected is a different person from the person who's watching the countdown clock on the streaming video. You become a different person as that time runs down to showtime, because you've adopted the goal of making sure that if you say it's on at 3 o'clock, it is on at 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock or whatever that is. That's all there is to it. And when it's off because you've got another one coming up at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Because you've now adopted that you report to that clock. That clock is your boss. And, I don't know whether people notice this, but unlike most podcasts where people just sort of show up, and that's it with headphones, and that's all they've got that identifies them as a host. You take the time to dress in a way that is consistent with the brand you're trying to express. You're concerned, very concerned, obsessed, in fact, a little about backgrounds and branding. And are we really showing up the way we need to show up so that people don't just see this as a podcast, but actually see it as a program, something that they want to tune into and not just happen on accidentally. And I think that that makes you a little bit more than a coach. I mean, your job has never been about making me comfortable at sucking at what I do. Your job has always been about helping me become better at what I do. I mean, that's what you do. It's not good enough that you stink and you're happy about that at all. You've got to be good. And if you're good this week, maybe next week you can be a little better. That makes you something different from a coach. That makes you a listening mentor. I mean, you have standards. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but there are plenty of coaches out there, and I respect them and admire them. I couldn't be one because at some point I'm going to be Cher in Moonstruck. Snap out of it. I'm going to be that. Snap out of it. I know this is how you feel. I get it. I've been listening to you tell me how you feel now for a week, a month, 2 hours. But the clock is running down, and we need to be somewhere by 3 o'clock. So snap out of it. Know what I mean?
Yes. You brought up so many great points there. The first one that I'll just tackle is I really find offense when someone emails me, I can't wait to be on your podcast. I don't have a podcast.
It's not a podcast.
It's not a podcast. This is a live streaming broadcasting platform that's got
absolutely. And by the way, I never use the word show. I always refer to it as a program. It's not a show.
Yes.
Okay. A show is entertainment. Programs are about something more than that.
It's very true. And what I found is people who are podcasters and they come on this platform, I've seen it again and again and again. They don't show up the 10 minutes before the show starts, which you need to be here 10 minutes before. It says it on the website because we have to have a conversation about the way the show's going to go, the takeaways from the show. And people will show up after the show started because with podcasts, you just show up, right? Hey, it's not going to go off at this time. It'll go off 10 minutes later. No, we're on a schedule. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And the other thing about being on a schedule is while I am in my role, I feel like I'm always the listening mentor, observing people's behavior, not for any reason other than that's what I do. It comes to me naturally. But I'm also the producer. And we also have timelines that we have to meet. And as you know, when you're interviewing someone and you put them up on Spotlight and they're talking for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7, come on, this is a television program. This is not you sitting in front of your mirror crying your heart out.
Well, really one of the, I have a whole bunch of pet peeves because a lot of people think this is just easy, right? Okay, so I'll start with my first one, which is somebody decides they want to have a podcast, and so they've got a guest. Okay, so the guest is coming on, and they've got a long, maybe minutes long. I want to introduce to you Dr. JACALYN KERBECK. Dr. JACALYN KERBECK was born in Philadelphia. She was raised in New Jersey. She grew up in Florida. She went to this school and this school and this school. She got this award for this, and she got this diploma for that, and she got this degree for that. And shut up. Get to the conversation. If there's anything important that I need to know about Dr. JACALYN, ask her to tell me what it is. Stop. Shut up. Get to the conversation. And another thing. Hey, it's good to see you, Doc. It's great hanging out. What do you want to talk about today? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to talk about? What? No, the answer to the question, what do I want? What do you want to talk about? Has got to be an answer. It can't be a question. It's got to be, I want to talk about this. It's not just, don't just show up and shoot the crap. Seriously. Well,
Al,
Focus.
you just said something. You said you don't like small talk, and I'm not big on small talk either, right? This is a business. And when people show up and they're like, hey, I'm in my bedroom, I got my clothes over here, and I'm not sure, hey, what do you want to talk about? I feel like bringing out the big hook and we go,
Oh,
whoop.
yeah, that's somebody you can't have back on. That's it. You better think a little bit about your message. The first question is going to be, who are you and why are you important? I mean, really, and that you got to have an answer for that question. You need to know the answer to that question. And the host's job isn't to pull that out of you. The host's job is to inspire that in you, get you started. But you better just know that the first question is going to be, why should we even care that you're here? I mean, that's in so many words. And so you better have something to say. And by the way, you did raise a kind of a pet peeve of mine. If somebody asks you a question, give them an answer. And the answer doesn't have to stretch over 5 minutes or, God forbid, 7 or 8 minutes or 10 minutes. It's a 30-minute program. Give the questioner a chance to ask questions. Answer the question. Just answer the question. And hope, and not all hosts can do this, hope that the host has enough curiosity and brains and experience to know based on your answer what the next question ought to be. Not something they scripted out in advance. I mean, it's a conversation with somebody where you learn who they are and what matters to them. You can't write that out in advance. I don't know that until I talk to you.
See, this is why you're so good at what you do. And just to add on to that, with all the co-hosts I have here on this platform, some people are still meeting with people before the show to interview them before the interview. And in any event, I have prepared myself that if the co-host doesn't show up, I'm ready to go. I don't need to do a lot of research. This is what I do for a living. I'm curious. I want to know who you are. If I ask you to put in your title, whatever it is you do, okay, now I know. You're a managing partner. Okay, what does a managing partner do? So it's interesting because these are skills we can use in our life. If we are curious and open to learning about the other person, yes, go ahead.
No. I think that's brilliant because that's exactly if you're good at talking with people in your life, then you'll be good at talking with people here in this platform. I mean, that really is it. I mean, if there are things that matter to you and you want to express those things, whatever they are, and if you're curious about what matters to somebody else and you know how to get them started, then everything flows from that. I mean, you don't need none of this is written down. This is a blown guest opportunity. I mean, we were going to interview a guest, and he didn't show for whatever reason. God bless him, but that's okay. The show must go on. You've got to be ready to talk about stuff that matters, and it could start with anything. So,
and Al,
I'm loving this because this is actually a lot of people. You know what? I don't think people really understand how much work goes into what you do. I mean, I don't think people really understand how much work goes into being prepared with 3 outfits a day, 4 outfits a day, so that you don't look the same on every show, and doing 6, 7 shows a day some days that stretch between an hour and 2 hours each. You know, and looking as fresh at 8 o'clock at night as you did when you started at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. I mean, you pop up on my phone pretty much all the time, and I'm thinking, does this woman ever sleep?
It's so, and I have to share that I am always standing. I'm standing. I stand for every show. I change my footwear because my feet fall asleep from standing so much.
Oh, sure.
But the one thing I have learned about this is this whole broadcasting is that had it not been for the pandemic, that there's no way I could have ever done this, because the fact that we were at home and isolated, that's what enabled me to take the time to explore this. I did a lot of research. I'm always researching new opportunities. And now I feel like this creative outlet has exploded, which I never felt creative in my entire life. And I have all these things that I want to bring to life to help other people. So without sounding that I'm making this up, it's totally true. I work 7 days a week, and I'm usually working till 11 o'clock at night. I will take off an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe an hour, and then an hour to work out. And then I have an hour with my mom, and that's it. That's my whole life.
And you're the only woman I know who has an Apple Watch that tells her to sit down every now and then rather than stand up. Where all the rest of us are being told to stand up. You've been sitting too long. You're actually hearing the opposite from your Apple Watch.
Yeah, I need to sit down.
So
What
people,
happened was,
I also do want to say, I mean, it shouldn't just be about me, obviously. It needs to be about you, because where you started out with programming that was primarily focused on business and then later focused on self-improvement, self-help, it was a lot of it. You've branched out into entertainment, music, the arts. I want you to talk, and you've got game shows. The spelling show. Give us you are a font of creative ideas when it comes to programming. Give us a quick rundown on the different kinds of programs we can find on USA Global TV.
thank you. Thank you for asking that. I will actually just show the show graphics. I don't have all of them, but okay, we have, let me take your banner down. Okay,
Okay.
we have the Epiphany Process with Janetta Barry, and it's actually, the name of the show is The Art of Creating Mental Health Wealth. We
She's
have
great.
What's Trending with Kathy Fulton, The Mallorca Connection with Roland Friedel, Pet Psychic Amina, Loving Longevity with Annie Bush, Aging Gracefully with Humor, and that is with Kathy Fulton. A Woman's Prerogative, a show for women, by women, about women. That's actually coming up after this. Oh no, the men's show is next, then that's after that. Global Homes and Gardens.
Wow.
The United Kitchens, that's our cooking show. Adversity to Awesome. The Power of Etiquette and Manners. Authentic Achievements, that's with Kim Adele Randall. And our game show that's coming up, Who's Listening game show. And this is only for people who have been certified as elevated listeners and are members of our elevated listening community. The Talking Heads panel, which changes every month. Wild at Heart, Bonfire Talks, Real, Authentic, Uncut. The Wise Ones with Red O'Loughlin. And The Corner Bookstore with Diane Floyd Bain. And of course, our show with Mr. Cini. And The Listening Mentor, followed by a new show that's coming out, a Christianity show. Leadership of the Heart with Mariska Duprier. This is the United Kingdom News and Culture with Diane Floyd Bain, Ian Pelham Turner, Helena Shard, and Simon McDonald. And the Film and Music Show with Madeline Chan. And believe it or not, we actually have a lot more shows than that. But
you do have Spelling Bee, the spelling show. Have you done any of those yet? Because that's fascinating to me.
No. So I'll tell you where I am. And for our audience who's listening or watching now or in the future, I have 7 new shows I want to bring out, and I need co-hosts. So part of the issue when you have a show is you need to get guests. And I used to get all the guests in the very beginning, but now I don't have the time to get guests. So I'm looking for 7 co-hosts for the Spelling Bee, for It's the Law, which is a legal show, a show for children called It's All About Kiddos and Their Parents. The other show is about technology, and I forget the title that I came up with, and then Animal Kingdom. So those 5, and then I forget the other 2, but there's 7, and I have them written down. So if anybody's looking to be a co-host on any of those shows, please do contact me.
Well, and I can highly recommend the experience. It's wonderful working with you. It's I don't want to say it's easy. It isn't. It's work, but it's fun work, and you get to meet people, and those contacts can spill over to opportunities in whatever it is you do for a living regularly. You are always generous with every one of your hosts to give them plenty of exposure on what they do and what they're trying to accomplish. So I can't think of a better way to advertise on a streaming video platform than to co-host the program with you. It's a great opportunity.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No, it's definitely, I can definitely recommend it.
And just to give a little perspective, and then I'll let you close it out. I had a show which was with you, and it was Celebrate Great Britain Royally Rich. And then we had Helena Shard and Ian Pelham Turner. Well, through them, I met Philip Sykes, who is the Power of Etiquette and Manners co-host. And then through him, I met Justina Mutali, who is one of our panelists on the Women's Prerogative show. And through Justina, I now just met a professor in Africa who is putting together this program to educate entrepreneurs in Africa. And my course, The Power of Listening, is going to be available to people in Africa now. So my point is one connection to another, to another, to another, to another. It's all about collaborating, networking, promoting each other. So I promote people, they promote me, and that's just a beautiful thing, I think.
It is. It's great. It's great when it works, and nobody works harder than you. And for that, I have to give you a lot of credit. I also have to tell your audience the reason why Netflix numbers are down is because people are dumping Netflix and watching USA Global TV.
Thank you, Al.
I don't blame them. This is better than most of the.
You know what something else is, Al, that I really want to broaden my horizons. I want to start doing live interviews in the field. And we just did the event for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation, the Take Steps Walk. And I thought to myself, wow, this is a very different experience interviewing people in person, because it was actually an event. I'm not going to go into the details, but just specifics about the broadcasting. The weather was not great. It was windy and rainy. We were in an overhang, but subjected to the weather, and trying to hold up the camera and talk to people, rain and wind, and then thinking about the fact that there's COVID out there. Like, there's a lot of things you take for granted that when you're here in this safe situation behind a green screen. But I want to get out into the field and start doing some live interviews.
Well, I watched the way you did it, and you were great. You were particularly good at snagging ordinary people as they walk by, getting them to come up to you and answer questions. And I thought the spontaneity of it, the energy of it, I thought it was all great. So I think that would be, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot involved in getting a remote shoot set up. Maybe not so much these days with camera phones, because, I mean, how much does it take, really? You can kind of walk. I think, well, first of all, you're a natural at it. Second of all, it's becoming more technically possible these days. Don't necessarily need a camera crew for everything. I think it's a great idea.
Well, at the stadium, thank you. At the stadium, I actually had 3 of our team members with their phones, and they were broadcasting from the event, from the field, from the stands, and never did that before. And it was amazing. No. So what I would love for you to share with our audience, you are actually also with another television platform that is where people meet in person. I know people can also Zoom in, but tell us a little bit about the other shows that you host and how people can find them.
Thank you, Dr. JACALYN. I appreciate that. On RVN Television, that's rvntelevision.com, all one word. I host 2 programs. One of the programs is CEO Chat. I've been doing that for about 5 years now with a good friend, a co-host of mine, Joe Asamendi, and we talk to people like Dr. JACALYN who have messages for business people and who have run businesses and been in the business world. And those are 30-minute interviews every Friday at 10:30. And I also co-host a program with Mark Iorio and Lisa Manioki called The Advocates on RVN Television. That's on Wednesday mornings at 10 o'clock. Those interviews are about people that have made a commitment to make a difference in the world. People who are advocating for a cause or for helping people. It's our tagline is people helping people. And we mean that in its broadest possible sense, whether you're helping companies become better or people become better. It's a great place to get together with us. And that's rvntelevision.com. And at that website, you can find where you need to go, as with usaglobaltv.com. Sign up to become a guest. We'd love to talk to you. So thank you, Doc.
Thank you. And Al, before I let you go, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to work with you at BCAT?
At the Brand and Culture Alignment Toolkit. The best way to reach me is via my email address, al.cini@getbcat.com. Or we have a toll-free number, 855-999-BCAT. And call the toll-free number, send me an email. We have a team building experience that only takes a few hours that connects people with their purpose and completely changes the game with respect to team building. It's better than sending people out to learn how to make pizzas or to do paintball or to go bowling or have dinner. I'm not saying you don't do that. I am saying what you need to do is to augment that with something that connects people with their purpose. That's what we do, and it's a lot of fun to facilitate. From what I understand, for the hundreds of people we put through this program now that we've facilitated, they all say it's great. They enjoy it. It's fun. So call me and we'll talk about it.
Thank you, Alan. Right after the show, we have the men's show, and I'd love for you to be a guest. Roland Friedel is running that show himself. I produce it, but he hosts it, and he's gotten
I
a panel
would,
on
I
board.
would, I would love to do that one of these days. I mean, you and I have had private conversations where I've talked a little bit about how men have kind of become a forgotten species. And it would be fun to get in there and make a couple of points. I think that would be a good thing.
We'll have to have you in. I'll just share this. Over the weekend, I was able to get out, believe it or not, and I went to see the Tom Cruise movie, which was phenomenal.
I
Phenomenal.
keep hearing it's great. I haven't seen it yet. I've got to see
It's
it.
amazing. Well, there's a scene between Tom and another actor, and it turns out, I'm not going to give anything away, but the one actor has a health problem, which is actually true in real life. I'm not saying it's the exact same problem, but you see
Hmm.
these two men come together and just give each other a hug and, encourage one another to talk. And I realized from what I've learned watching Roland's show backstage, I didn't realize it was that so many men are keeping so much inside and how much pain is caused.
That's the counterpoint to what I said earlier. Yes, it's important to move on, because it's important to live your life, and no matter what loss you may have experienced, you need to find a way to make that part of your life and not the end of your life. And that's important. At the same time, you can't just wallpaper over it. If there's a hole in the wall, putting wallpaper over it isn't going to make the hole go away. You got to fill that hole. And so I think that's a real service to men, what you're doing. And it would be fun to be a part of it one of these days. Let's see if we can work out.
Yes, let's make it happen.
Cool.
Fantastic. Well,
Good.
thank you again for being here. And we're sorry that he's already texted me like 4 times. So Hiett Ives was our guest today, but he didn't make it. It was a technology issue, I guess. So anyway, Al and I are signing off for now, and I'll be coming right back with Roland Friedel. I'll be backstage, but we will have our men's show and a show again for men, by men, about men. For now,
Excellent.
Al and I are saying goodbye. Bye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Dr. Jeff.
Thank you.